Hey, if you're interested in a new hunting blind, Bo from Orion Hunting Products is going to tell you what makes theirs a cut above the rest.
Bo Anderson here with Orion Hunting Products. Today I'm going to talk to you about how we design, manufacture, and distribute Orion products across the entire country. It starts with raw materials. So we are start to finish manufacturer from raw steel and sheet and tube. We're going to laser cut that, we're going to weld it, we're going to bend it. We also have in-house powder coating. So we go through that whole process to get that metal tower built, assembled. We'll store it at our warehouse here in Michigan, and then we'll distribute to our dealers across the country straight from there. On the panel side, we call it panel side, it's a value stream on the manufacturing side. It starts with 2 inches of foam. That's where we're gonna get our structure, our insulation, our noise control, and we coat that with 2 layers of aluminum and carpeting. That carpeting is on the inside of that product, which really helps to cut down on all the noise that's inside that blind, and we chose black to help keep everything in the shadows, right? So you're not having the deer be able to look in and see you moving. From there, we'll take those laminated panels, we'll put them on our CNC, our computer-controlled router. They're gonna rough cut those panels out, and they're gonna cut out our window openings and all of our hardware mounting points. They'll go through our fast assembly process, and then we package these vertically to ship to our dealers and to ship to our customers around the country. So on our metal processing side, we have what we call a CNC laser cutter. This is where sheet steel, so flat stock sheet steel, will go into our laser, and we'll actually take that and we'll cut out pieces that will then either bend or weld to make our metal product, or to cut out our aluminum to create trimming for our panel side. We have fully trained welders in-house that fully weld your Orion towers to make sure that they are strong and they're safe to climb up in and put our box blinds up on top of to hunt from an elevated platform. Powder coating is done in-house. We will wash with an iron phosphate wash to get that metal prepped and ready for our powder coat process, which is a great, robust, gritty, and weather-resistant, weatherproof coating. And that powder coating is designed to last in any environment. On the panel side, it begins with our glue machine. So we're gonna run our 2-inch panels of foam through our glue machine that coats it on the top side and the bottom side. From there, we're gonna layer it up into our panel press, aluminum, foam, aluminum, carpet. We build those panels and we will put them under pressure for 24 hours so we create a nice structural panel, which is the basis for our Orion blinds. These solid panels we'll put onto our CNC controlled router. We have designed a special bit to cut through both sides of our aluminum and our carpeting to get those in a rough cut shape, where our windows will then be assembled into it and our hardware will be added for our patented catch and latch system. In the final assembly area, these all aluminum panels are fully riveted together before they're packaged and sent off to our customers. These panels are all aluminum, so there's nothing to rot, there's nothing to go bad on these. We offer a full 15-year warranty on all Orion products. We're designed, built, and distributed right here in the USA. So every time you buy an Orion tower or an Orion blind, you're supporting American-made products and American workers. At Orion, we have over 150 dealers across the country. Visit our website, huntorion.com, and find the nearest dealer to you.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Analogics, perfecting the science of deer feed. Ready to harvest a giant? Let Analogics help you attract, hold, pattern, and grow trophy bucks. Analogics, because there is no off-season.
If you're a landowner that doesn't quite know when to plant your food plots, you're not alone. You're watching Deer and Deer Hunting Properties. Hey, Tim here, wildlife biologist for Analogics Outdoors. And today I want to talk about timing of food plots. That's probably one of the biggest questions that I get is, when should I plant a food plot? And we purposefully did not put dates on our bags because different years have different seasons, and those seasons are not at the exact same time every year. So for instance, I'm from Minnesota. we've had an extremely late spring. We had snow into the end of April. So if we had, put on our bag that you could plant the middle of April, we would have had a lot of failed food plots. But what we want to target is the timing of the growing season. So you can target things like dandelion blossoms. When you see dandelion blossoms in your area, you know that soil temperature has reached the stage that other food plot plants can grow. So in the instance of soybeans, we have the Pro soybean blend from Analogics. That needs 60 degrees of soil temperature in order to have a good germination. So we target the 9 o'clock in the morning time frame to do soil temperature testing, because that is a time when the sun hasn't been out long enough to warm up the soil for that day, and it's maximizing the coolness of the night before. So 60 degrees on soybeans is what you want to target. That is also the same temperature you want to plant Summer Crush from Analogics. It's a lot of the same style of species that are growing in the summertime. When I'm talking about perennials in food plot planting, there's 2 times those could be planted. They can be planted in the spring and they can be planted in the fall. If you're spring planting, you can do things like frost seeding, which can basically happen anytime you're getting that freeze-thaw cycle where it's getting cold enough at night to freeze, but then during the day it warms up. Basically, in Minnesota, it's basically from the end of February through March. And you just look at the calendar and see, the forecast and see that you've got the freeze-thaw cycle there. But you can also plant those perennials in the fall as long as you give them 6 weeks of growing time before the frost will happen. And it's hard to predict exactly every year when the first frost will be. So what you can do is look up a frost calculator online. The frost calculator will tell you the average date of first frost in your area. Now then you just go back 6 weeks and make sure your plot is in the ground to give it 6 weeks before that time frame. On the annual side of things, in cases like the Perfect 10, that's a fall planted annual. And all of our bags, by the way, have an indication of when they should be planted and if they're an annual or perennial, and also the coverage. But if it's a fall planted species, any of the fall planted annuals, you want to give them at least 6 weeks of growing time so that you can have a good stand and you don't have to worry about the frost killing the product before it gets to the high palatability stage of the food plot life cycle. If you are like me and sometimes procrastinate and don't get to a plot, we have a product that's called Caveman Blend. It is so easy that a caveman could plant this, and that could be planted very late. That does not need a full 6 weeks. That one would only need about 4 weeks. So in the upper Midwest, if you're hitting that Labor Day time frame and you haven't got a food plot in the ground, the Caveman Blend is going to be the way to go there. So just think about what your schedule looks like and make sure that you've got some moisture in the ground or within the next 10 days of when you plant, and you're going to have a successful food plot.
Coming up next. Hey, just because your budget might not be as big as you want it to be, don't be deterred from going out there and looking for your first property.
So did you know that snow depth determines the fawn weight the following summer? So some researchers out of Mississippi State did research in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and in 2009 and 10 there was a severe winter and the fawn weights averaged about 5 pounds. The following winter was above average temperature, snow depth was very minimal, and the fawn weights were double the following summer. And they attributed that to being able to get more nutrition throughout the winter time. So just remember that nutrition can be an equalizer. If there's deep snow, feeding supplement throughout the winter can help your fawns be bigger when they hit the ground.
Hey, it's Jason Rickman with DDH Properties, and we're gonna talk about the advantage of purchasing a small acreage property, right? So everybody's dream is always to get those big parcels, 200 acres, 400 acres. Well, there's some key advantages for people, maybe with budgets that don't quite fit that 200, 400 acre budget, right? So small parcels, typically I'm looking at, 10 acres to 40 acres max is a small parcel. And when I'm looking at those parcels, I have seen some giant bucks taken off of 10 or 15 acre parcels. So how does that happen, right? How can you hold the deer? Well, we know we can't hold the deer on 10 or 15 acres, right? Unless it's completely fenced in. Not what we're looking for. So we look at the neighbors, right? And I like to take a look around and see, hey, is this a travel corridor? Is this a pinch point? Is that what my small acreage is? So that I know all the big bucks during the rut, they're gonna be cruising through there. So I definitely try to identify that on a map. So at DDH Properties, we definitely wanna go over that with our buyer to show them an overview of, hey, here's your neighbors, this looks like a great pinch point. Or, is it attached to a much bigger chunk of national forest? Some people have the taste for 200 or 400 acres, but we have the budget for 10 acres or 20 acres. So sometimes parcels come up that are attached to a national forest, some state land that you can hunt all of it. So you get best of both worlds. You're paying for 10 acres, but you get to hunt 500 acres or 1,000. So those are some other things that we look for in that small acre parcel, right? So when we do look at that, one of the first things we do if we're working with a buyer, we will definitely contact the listing agent and find out from the seller, hey, can you tell me a little bit about the neighbors, right? So are they big buck hunters? Are they small buck hunters? What are we, right? We have to identify what we're looking for. If we're just looking to shoot a nice mature deer and we don't really care if it's a giant, then that opens up the doors to a lot of different parcels. Is this small parcel just swamp and wetlands and it's gonna be maybe a bedding area or a deer crosses through once in a while? Is that what that parcel looks like? We need to identify that, and that's a question for you as a buyer. Hey, what is it that you're looking for out of this small parcel? Are we looking for that corridor, where that deer is gonna go through, every rut because I'm in the natural funnel and I have ag on both sides? Or are we looking for, hey, I really want 200 acres someday, I can't afford it, but I would love it now. Let's find me something that adjoins to state land or national forest where I have that opportunity to hunt more land but still have my spot there. And on that small parcel, is there a building site? Sometimes we're just looking for that building site because it's more than hunting that we want to do, right? We might want to put a little four-wheeler trail or a walking trail. Hey, we might just want to have a spot where we can put a little cabin and walk out the back door and maybe shoot a deer, a respectable deer for us, right? So those are the things, when we're looking at that small parcel, that's what we're looking for to see what fits our buyer's needs.
Don't go away. Coming up next, Dan Schmidt and Dr. Will Goldsby of the Auburn University Deer Lab share what they believe is some of the most common mistakes that deer managers make with their food plot strategies. This is Deer and Deer Hunting Properties. Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Orion Hunting Products. Engineered for stealth and safety, Orion's modular, lightweight design allows you to set up camp anywhere you want to hunt. No heavy equipment, no problem. Orion Hunting Products.
We're out checking some trail cameras. One of them was just low on battery, but we just had a bunch of rain, and it's actually a myth that rain completely stops all deer movement. A lot of people talk about how they don't like to hunt in the rain because they don't see that many deer, but the GPS studies that have been done on deer movement show that rain has little to no impact on deer movement. Deer are going to move. Deer are crepuscular. They're going to move in the early mornings and in the late evening, and weather has little to do with how much they move on a daily basis.
planting cool season food plots without also managing native forage and planting warm season food plots is another thing that I see a lot of deer managers frequently getting wrong. Certainly, cool season food plots are great for attracting deer and providing supplemental forage during a time of the year, during fall and winter, where native forage tends to be more limited. It increases our ability to observe large numbers of deer, achieve doe harvest quotas, and try to pattern bucks that we're after. But what only focusing on cool season food plots does is it fails to provide supplemental nutrition during another important time of the year, which is spring and summer. And the importance of spring and summer nutritionally for deer is that's when does are dropping their fawns, when they're lactating, which is a very energy demanding period, and when fawns are growing and have the highest crude protein requirements than during any other time of the year.
It affects deer behavior, and that's what you need to understand. If you're just planting food for the hunting season, it's going to affect which deer are there because they might not be there through other times of the year when they would have been had you been thinking about warm season food plots and nutritional needs in spring. So actually, this whole exercise should be a year-round program if you only want good hunting. Here's why. We know through research that bucks and does live on the landscape in different ways. Bucks' home ranges are bigger, their core ranges are smaller, and doe ranges interlap. The females interlap. So if I'm managing that food source for the whole year, especially in spring and late winter, let me say late winter and spring, I'm getting them necessary minerals if I can put that out, or just providing it naturally, and I'm providing them with food in late winter and spring. Both bucks and does need this to replenish their bodies from a hard winter. Does need that nutrition early, not just in spring, they need it in those late winter months. So they can enter that fawning period in top shape. Therefore, they're going to be more productive, they're going to have more fawns, and they're going to rear more fawns because with food, that natal range is going to be optimum. When we talk about bucks, same thing, but bucks is all about their skeletal system. Once they reach maturity, and I'm putting that at 3.5 years old, I'm not talking about antler max potential, I'm talking about body size, 3.5, 4.5 years old. Their skeleton is there where it needs to be, but when they get out of winter, they're like a prize fighter at the end of 12 rounds. They're exhausted, and they need to replenish that quickly. And if they do, we're talking February, March, April, they're starting to build up those reserves. Now they hit spring and summer in max antler growing capacity, and they're going to be able to manifest what we want, the healthiest deer possible.
So allowing those deer to reproduce successfully, having abundant supply of nutritious milk for their fawns so that those fawns grow as rapidly as possible, which will affect their body size, and for bucks, their antler size throughout the rest of their life. And then also those bucks that are already adults, supplementing their nutrition and providing that protein so they can maximize antler growth when they're in velvet is very important.